Welcome to Two Rock Radio. I'm Jeff. It's April 23rd, 2022. I'm sorry it's been a while for us to get this latest podcast out, but we've been busy with SAP, and SAP season is over, so our next topic of conversation for this spring is going to be how cows came to Two Rock Ridge Farm. Welcome to Two Rock Ridge Radio. I'm Jeff, and I'm here with my wife,
Stephanie.
Yeah,
she forgot, apparently.
Yeah, she knows what her name is. I was going for dramatic effect. So sorry it's taken a while to get this podcast out, but we've been busy with the maple syrup season, which we wrapped up
last week.
We got the buckets put away, and we still got to do a little cleaning on the evaporator. But we had a really good season. We ended up with just about 15 gallons of finished product, which was our goal. We actually shot for that, and we just about got it. The best part of the whole project was that we have sold just about everything that we had made.
Yeah, we have a little tiny bit left to sell in the farm stand, mostly in small containers, couple ounces, and a few half pints. That's it.
So it actually ended up being a really good season. We wanted to do something along the lines of when Maine Maple Weekend was actually going on. We opened up Saturday morning, and by 3:00 on Saturday afternoon of Maine Maple Weekend, we were sold out. We want to thank everyone who came. It was amazing. At one point, we probably had at least 60 to 70 people on site at once, which is unheard of here. It was really fun. We enjoyed it. What do you think, Steph? How did it?
I mean, I was at town meeting in the morning, so we had the girls in the farm stand. But yeah, they probably sold at least half of it before we got home. And then, yeah, like Jeff said, by probably 3:00, we basically had sold out everything we had. We boiled the next day so people could come see how the process works. But we didn't have anything for sale still because we were still boiling it down.
We didn't. What we do want to say thank you. Both Steph and I are really appreciative to our daughter Emily, her boyfriend Ethan, and our daughter Anna, and our nephew-in-law Aaron, who came over and helped us. Sorry for that. Aaron's my niece's husband, except my niece is only is the same age as my wife. So
it's a little weird.
It's a little bit weird. But
we get it. You don't get it. It's okay.
But he did a really good job. He learned on the fly of how to do the evaporation process, learned all the things.
He did. He answered questions.
Emily came in the morning. She's done a little bit with the maple syrup, but not a lot.
Anna made a poster explaining the process.
Emily came in and asked a lot of questions. She goes, okay, so how does this work? So when people ask, I can have an intelligent answer. They manned the stand. It was really good. It was a nice family day. And we got a lot of people here that had never been here, and they specifically came from for the maple process, and they wanted to see how we did it compared to a more modern setup. They wanted to see how it was. They came for how we do it in our little niche process of throwback to the 50s and 60s. It was fun. It was good.
But some people also came to see the cows.
Yes. So in that light, in this spring, one of the things that we have happening is we wanted to talk about how we got to the point where we have cows.
Right. We have two.
And to back up a little bit, there was a long family history of cattle on the farm here. My family history always had cattle. even, and then on Steph's side of the family, they always had at least one or two kicking around somewhere
In the family,
in the
not
family.
my parents. Definitely got chased by some angry mother cows out of the field who did not want me anywhere near their calves. That is the extent of my cow experiences until we got cows.
So once we had moved here, it's always been in the back of our minds, and we talked about it, and we had mentioned it numerous times. We talked about it someday. It would be good. And this is our first full
Full
year,
year. Almost exactly a year
almost exactly a
from when we
year.
got the cows.
So about December, January last year, we decided that we had a little family meeting over Christmas, and it was Emily said, "Well, I like cows, and Grandpa always showed me how to do stuff with cows." My father was the one who had a lot of cows, and he had gotten down to the point where he just had oxen, pulling oxen at the end.
Gigantic oxen.
These were really, really big. Um, and when Emily would come to visit, she would
When
go.
she was like 2, 3, 4.
She would go and do stuff with Dad and the cows in the barn
Did I mention gigantic?
way earlier in the morning before her grandmother ever got up. So she never knew this was going on.
Which was for the best.
But Dad was always very careful. They were basically great big dogs. They were voice command, and he taught her a lot more than we knew about how to do cattle. Our son, Mike, who was at the same family Christmas Eve dinner, also likes cows. He spent high school with a friend who they have a very big dairy farm, and he would do things with that, with working at the farm, helping take care of cows, feed the cows. He even went and did to the fairs with the Hawes. It's the Hawes Farm in Union. They have a herd of Holsteins, and they would take their herds around to the local fairs. And Mike and his friend JJ, was it JJ
Or Matt.
or Matt? One of them. There were
Mostly
two
Matt, I
brothers.
think.
Would go and do shows and stuff like that, and Mike would go with them and help take care of the cows. So he's been around cows all of it, and
Right. And the older girls also
yep.
been around cows since they
So
were kids. All the kids basically have more experience with cows than I did ever.
And I grew up obviously with my father. My uncle, his brother, raised a herd of Black Angus beef cattle that we would go up and help them with, and always around doing the haying, feeding, turning them from pasture to pasture, and all that sort of stuff. So, long story short, we decided, yep, at some point the family agreed we'd have cows. About 2 months later, we
Keeping in mind, of course, that 3 out of 4 kids did not live here at the time.
we saw an ad, and I just happened to like, well, maybe they might have a calf or two, something simple. So I emailed the farm that happened to be
Highland
owned.
Cattle of Troy.
Yep. And we did our research. We knew what they were. And they literally wrote back the same night. Oh yes, we have some cattle available. How many do you want?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a shock because this was late in the season. Normally this doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of emails back and forth, and then we went and looked at them in
March.
right about around St. Patrick's Day,
Mm-hmm.
middle of the month. We fell into love with their herd. They were an older couple who were trying to downsize their herd. They were very interested about meeting us before they would even sell us cattle.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good meeting.
Yep, and talking to us, and
They both wanted to know what our experience was. They both wanted to know what facilities we had.
I was not helpful in that aspect.
So then they finally let us. And what I liked was, before I asked, so can I get out? And they had the herd in one of the pens. And I'm like, so can I get in and you always ask, if you go to look at cattle, you always ask the person, the farmer or cattleman, before you do anything with their cattle, is it okay if I go and work with your cattle, interact with the herd? One, for safety. Two, there's biosafety, that if in that, and he asked this question, well, have you been around any other cows? Where I'm like, no, I know what you're saying. I have not been around any other cattle in like years. So no, I have, my boots have not, because you can carry things you can carry cattle disease from one farm to another. So he was fine with that. So we went in and interacted with some of the cattle. I did. Steph stayed outside with Jan, and
come on now.
and
I got no experience. I'm not going in there. Come on.
And one of the large cows, she had a calf, and she's one of the older ones. She was Jan's favorite. I just didn't even knowing was like, hey, so how are you? Talking to the cow, like that, and Stan looked at Jan and said, Jen, she doesn't let anyone. And Jen was shocked too. Because she told Steph, she doesn't let anyone touch her except me. So she asked me, do you want to brush her? I'm like, yeah. So she ran, got a brush, came back. I brushed her. Now, this is a big cow. She's probably about 1,400 pounds. She had a calf.
Right. Big horns.
Big horns.
They're Highlands.
They're Highlands. No problem. She and I interacted well. And the other herds, I mean, there was few skittish ones, but it is what it is. But mostly that's how we interacted. We were there for a couple of hours. They had 2 for sale. Mm-hmm. We picked out 2. Willow is a full-blooded Highland. Rosie,
not registered.
Not registered, but she is full-blooded. Mm-hmm. And then Rosie is a little bit of a mix. She was supposed to be 75 Highland, 25 Angus.
Red Angus.
Red Angus. She was supposed to.
She is very, very dark.
She came out looking like the Angus that I was very familiar with.
She acts like an Angus.
But she is a Highland. She has the hair.
She does. She has a lovely, like, red, like, highlights.
And if you go to our website or any of our pictures about the farm, you will see plenty of cow pictures.
But no horns. Rosie doesn't have horns.
She has little nubs where they started.
She does. You can't really see them in any of the pictures, but she does have, like, tiny little horn nubs.
And they were exactly 2 years old together. They're cousins. They are. We have the paperwork. We show the lineage. We know the bloodlines.
Willow is the daughter of the one Jeff was brushing when we went to visit the whole herd. And then Rosie is Willow's cousin. So they have a lot of sisters, and then, an unrelated bull in their herd.
And they all do artificial insemination, so they can very easily track who's related to who. That was another reason why we went with this particular herd. I guess at this point, that's how we got to the point. We spent the next month rebuilding. That we worked a deal with them that they would keep the cattle till about mid-May. Mid-May.
Yeah, but we ended up getting them at the end of April.
Because we were ready. What it was, my father's barn had sat not ready for cattle. It's right next door on my niece's Kate's lot, right next door. Obviously, we talked to the family. They were involved. Everyone was. When we came back,
they weren't using the barn.
Yep.
Like, we're not kicking anybody out. We checked with them first before we committed to getting cows.
And we talked to the rest of the family, because when you do something like this, you can do it on your own, but the more people that you have, the easier this whole project is, because it becomes a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change. Once you switch to It's not having chickens. It's not having goats. It's not having sheep. It's not. You're raising cattle, and at that point, that's a whole different thing. I was familiar with it, and I was prepared in my head to do it, but I needed to get other people
He's not just talking about me.
on board that were my brother, who was a lot older than me. He was around when my father had a herd of like 30 dairy cattle
Dairy cows.
plus beef.
Yeah.
So instantly
He was on board.
He's in. We talked to my sister,
And he lives in the same town.
and my sister lives across. She was in. Everyone was on board with
and obviously our neighbors, Kate
Yes.
and Aaron.
So
We borrowed their barn
we
to house the cows.
the problem
They're
was
still over there.
we needed to build some infrastructure, and Dad's infrastructure that he had was gone by
all of it.
All of it. We had
no fence.
No
nothing.
Nothing.
Everything was gone.
We had to fix the water line to the barn.
Mm-hmm.
So Steph's father brought up his excavator. What started out as a simple project to fix one water line,
which we knew there was a leak because when the water was on, there was a puddle in the driveway. So you knew where the leak was. So we knew we had to fix that. But for whatever reason, the water to the barn was not working either. Some of it was working, but not all of it was working. We ended up digging a whole thing.
And basically we ended up what was supposed to be a little 4x4 hole, fix a leak, turned into digging long trenches.
Mm-hmm. But also we added a hydrant to Kate and Aaron's garden. We added another hydrant, so that was a little extra.
And updated the line into another building. Mm-hmm. We've already got it opened, and Steph's father is one that if you've got it open, you keep going, and you don't.
So we ended up trying to fix the water to the barn, but we fixed the water to the shop, to the barn, and put in a new hydrant to the garden.
Yes.
All at the same time.
And updated and put in new water line to all those things.
Over one weekend.
A lot of mud, a lot of up and down. And what was funny was that I knew where the water line was, but when we started digging, we found water lines and pipes and stuff. Old ones from where the old farm had been there. Mm. Stuff that we didn't know where anything went.
It's all underground. So we're finding these random
cut off pipes,
water lines. And we're like, oh, there it is.
Oh,
and
no,
then it's just like a 4-foot section of random pipe under the driveway.
That had been cut off maybe 100 years ago.
But we figured it out, and it was fine. It's all fine now.
And so that was the first thing. The next thing was to build a paddock, a hardened area out behind. And when I told Steph is, you need a very secure area. I don't care how big it is, what you have, you need one secure area. And that needs to be hard, solid, fortified fence. So we got a postal digger. We set 4x4s, 8 feet apart.
Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron again. We set 4x4s all the way around. Again, this is all available on our website. Lots of pictures on Facebook and on the website.
I think it's on YouTube.
And on YouTube. There's a whole video on YouTube under the farm of us doing this. We set everything in, and then we put railed fencing in out of 2x6, double rail fencing, triple in some places because of the slope of the land, and tied it all back to the barn. Ran water out there so we could have water. And then the last thing we ran was electric on the inside to train them to electric fence.
And we also did goat fence on the inside. So we have wood fence, and then we have metal mesh fence, and then electric.
Which in our case, we want to...
Overkill maybe.
But the reason...
But it worked.
Right, because it keeps... We have people who show up with dogs, and sometimes random dogs will show up, or
cows don't really like the dogs.
It's not a happy thing, so it keeps everybody separate.
I mean, or little kids for that matter.
Little kids, right?
Little things they just don't like.
Right. So I like to go overkill, and it is definitely overkill. But as I'll explain later, you'll see why overkill is good. We got everything done, and we got everything ready. And Steph, when did the all right? We were ready for we were going to do it in May, but we got done, right?
Yes. Yes. They Jen and Stan said that they could keep the cows until May, and we're like, okay, we're gonna, go for April that the cows get here. And it's almost exactly a year
Mm-hmm.
that they did agree to deliver the cows.
Yep.
So almost exactly a year ago, we got our cows. I think tomorrow is a year.
Yep.
I think the
I think it
24th
is. Yes.
was the year. It was a year from when we got them.
So we got the process went quicker. I took I took a day off from my full time job. Steph was around, Aaron was around, and we hammered it out. We really
Mhm.
did. Some long days, but it wasn't horrible. And all we focused on was getting the paddock ready, because when you bring cattle from one place to another, you just don't turn them out into a pasture and just let them go. They need to learn where home is. So they had the barn
Right. We wanted them in a specific area.
and the paddock over there. We went, was it 20 by 40?
I think our paddock is like 22 by 25.
22 by 25. That's right. It's a little bit bigger than the footprint of the barn. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give or take.
Give or take. And that goes on with slope of land, working around rocks.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part of
There were a lot of
where we
rocks.
were putting the paddock in, there is the old barn foundation that was there,
Mm-hmm.
ledge, rocks, everything else that was. So what we tried to do was find there were on occasion we would find where the old barnyard post or the old paddock used to be,
Mm-hmm.
whether you call it a paddock, a yard, pen, whatever. I mean, that's what we're
Right.
talking about.
We call it the paddock
We call
because
it the paddock.
it's all wood. It's
Yeah.
all enclosed. It's not just barbed wire or electric
But there
or
were only certain
whatever.
spots, like, and you could tell when you actually started working it, you could tell where Dad had the old lines. So we
Mm-hmm.
followed the old lines as much as we could, got everything back,
And
and we
his was a lot more open
open.
than
Yeah.
what we were doing for the paddock. The
And
paddock was pretty small,
yeah,
compared to
what
what
he
he
had.
had.
Mm-hmm. So we got that done. We were ready. Cows show up we're ready in the morning.
Right?
Cows show up. We
have a crowd.
We have a crowd, which is not
Of
great,
family.
but it works as long as everyone stays
They
calm
were
is good.
excited.
Um, we were able to use, and some of the stuff is like, we're trying to keep a little bit of family history going here too. We utilized my father's old gate, his old main gate. We utilized that,
Attached to the barn.
attached the barn off the king post that
Kept that.
snapped right into place where it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
We got it in. So they backed the cattle trailer up to the gate, and it fits perfect. The size of the trailer, it's made so that when you back the trailer into it, there's no way a cow could get by the trailer and out. It has to go in the paddock. So we're all excited. Anna's got cameras running. There's people, taking pictures. And Willow and Rosie did not want to come out of the trailer.
They did not.
We waited for a little while, and obviously they just didn't want to come out on their own.
Understandable.
Understandable. So Stan got on one side, and I looked like, and Stan is a little older gentleman. So I hopped up onto the trail. It's an enclosed box trailer.
So they're both on the outside of the trailer.
And you don't want
to get the cows out.
And you don't want to get between the cow. You just have to kind of get a feel for how to handle and read cows. So I got in, saw how they were, and I'm like, and just with just my hand, tapped one on the butt, and I can't remember which one on the butt. I'm like, come on. And they started working towards the back of the trailer. And all at once, as soon as that started, they literally hopped out of the trailer out into the paddock. And if you watch the video on YouTube, you can see where they actually,
It
and
was very funny.
because you thought they were jumping down a 4-foot jump, it was 6 inches. The
Yeah,
way
they were kicking their feet up.
So we got the cows into the paddock, pulled the trailer back,
Closed
got
the
the gate, and then we just everyone just kind of sat down and let them, because they ran around
Right. Jen and Stan stuck around.
for a while.
Like, okay, let's see how it's gonna go.
Jen talked with Steph, went over the paperwork. Steph finished up signing the contracts, which we'll talk about later on. Stan and I went and looked. He goes, and I appreciate his opinion. This made me feel good from a guy who's had cattle his entire life. He goes, we've sold some cattle to places that I was really wondering if I should even get the cows off the trail. He goes, I have no problem leaving these cattle here. He said, you guys have done great. You're going to do great. and he proceeded to talk from there just a little just how Maine cattle guys are. They'll, if they like you and you get to know them and talk with them, they'll drop little hints, especially about certain. They'll know each one of their animals, and they'll drop little hints, and you just have to just keep your mouth shut and ears open, because they'll drop in little things that you need to know that you wouldn't even think to ask. So they left. Cattle being cattle, they finally get settled down. I threw some hay into them, even though they had some bright green grass to eat. Threw in some hay. They already had the water in there. So what happens is, when you take cattle away from their herd, after a period of time, they start to develop their own pecking order. Now, there's only 2 of them, and this is where having a reinforced fence comes into it.
Mhm.
I was in the barn doing something when this particular event happened. Steph was watching when it actually happened.
Mhm. So Rosie and Willow just got like trying to decide who's in charge.
And got into a fight. Now, mind you, they're
Not like a fight. Like, they weren't trying to hurt each other, but they're just like,
you have to look
I'm
at
the boss of you, and I'm the boss of you, and so they were having a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And Rosie shoved Willow into one side of the fence, and the whole fence just tipped
and came back.
and then came back.
Now, mind you, they're 2 years old. They probably
Right?
weigh,
They're babies still.
but still, that is let's call it
It's a lot.
700 pounds of animal on the hoof each. So you've got over 1,000 pounds
Shoving a fence.
shoving a fence. And our fence held.
And it was spring,
And
so
it
it was a little bit muddy.
And
It was mostly grass, but it was a little muddy. So Willow slipped, and just that's why the fence bent
yeah,
a little bit. So then we reinforced that side of the fence
even more.
with some extra posts and
Yep, some
boards
bracing.
and just to be sure,
Just to be
because
sure.
they were new.
And we didn't know how much they were. And by that evening, they had all.
Yeah, they were fine.
They were fine. We didn't even had to do what we did, but we had extra stuff on hand to do that.
Later, though, when we expanded into the pasture, that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That they still were having some times where they felt like maybe they didn't want to be inside the fence. So I kind of wish Aaron was here. So Aaron and I are the least experienced of the cow people.
This is like 2 months later.
It was a while later. We had expanded the pasture into
hold that thought. So basically, they lived in the paddock for about 3 weeks. We fed them in there.
Right.
We watered them in there, got
Right.
them settled down that now this is home. And they finally got the idea, because first off, they didn't know us. We didn't know them. They're in a strange place. And I specifically asked, okay, so that I only wanted like at most 4 different people there, because they need to learn some things.
Imprint on people or whatever.
Steph and I handled them the most. These cattle were nice, but they were what I call field wild.
Mhm.
They've never been halter broke. They hadn't been.
If you get close to them, they will back up.
They would back up. They wouldn't let you near within. They wouldn't let you near them at all.
8 feet probably.
Yeah.
If you got that close to them, they were like, nope,
Nope.
back up.
So there was a lot of learning process, and I knew that at the beginning, and we'll talk about that in a different episode about how we train cattle. But this was a lot of and you have to. The key is patience. You have to have patience, and especially at the beginning, schedule it. Like when you show up in the morning at 8 or 7 or whenever it is you're going to be, you have to be there. And then at night, if you're going to do anything at night with them, you have to keep a regular schedule with them. So
which is weird seasonally because you want to feed them before dark in the winter.
But they keep that schedule. They don't care about light. It's time to eat.
Yes. And they will let you know that it is time to eat.
Things were going.
Also, they think it's always time to eat.
Yes, always, yes. And that's another whole episode again. We're going to do probably 3 or 4 parts of cattle because we love cattle. And it's kind of become the heart and soul of what we're doing here. So give it they showed up in April. Give it May, June, July. This was probably end of July. I'm at work 80 miles away.
Right.
So
I came home from work. I work in town and I get out in the afternoon. So I came home from work and I'm looking up at the cows as I drive by and I'm like, that cow looks like she's out, like outside the fence. I'm like, nah, she can't be outside the fence. So I drive in our driveway, and I look and I'm like, she's outside the fence. So I run in the house. I change my shoes because, I'm wearing work shoes.
From the office.
Cow herding shoes. I drive back over. I drive into the driveway next door. Willow is out. She's our full Highland.
With the horns.
She's red. Like she stands out. Okay, that she is outside the fence.
And even then, her horns are way bigger now, but even then she had horns.
She did. And it was fine. She's up by the barn. I'm like, okay, she's just hanging out by the barn.
Eating a pile of beans that I had there.
That we had picked out of the field. We'd been feeding them beans out of the field, just extra bonus deliciousness. So she's just standing there eating the beans. And I pull into the driveway. And I knock on the door. And Aaron is working from home. And so I knock on the door. I'm like, are you busy? He's like, working from home. I'm like, okay, can I have you for like 10 minutes? The cows are out. He puts on his boots.
And if you own cattle, that is that one statement
call to action
is a call to action,
which I didn't know, but
when you make a phone call, a text, smoke signals, whatever it is, that cows are out, it's like getting, for me in my line of work, it's like getting a fire call. That's it.
Okay. So here we are. No one else is home. It's just me and Aaron, the least experienced, did I mention this, with cows.
I'm at the fire station.
Willow is out. So Aaron, thank God, jumps in the pen.
Over the rail.
Rosie is in there already. Thank goodness. She's in there. Behaving herself, not getting out. I'm like, okay, we need to close the paddock, the closed in wooden rails where we know where they are. We need to close them in there. So Rosie's already in there. So Aaron jumps in. Willow is like 4 feet away from the gate. But when she sees us, she backs up and like heads for the woods. I'm like, okay, Aaron, get in there, close the gate, get Rosie shut in there. And I'm going to try to get Willow over here. I'm going to bribe her with the cow cookies, the cattle cubes. They're like...
We'll explain later.
They're super sweet. The cows love them, you know. So I get a bucket. I get, you know, I bribe her over here, and we get her back in there. We close them into the paddock until Jeff gets home the next day. It was a time, but it was okay.
But she's leaving out a lot in the fence in that there was air.
She went, okay, Willow went under the metal fence underneath. It didn't have electric at that time.
At that time.
And so she kind of just used her horns and picked up the fence, and she was like, I'm going to go over there.
And so
she did.
And then they had to. God love Steph. She actually is leaving out a lot. This took a lot more than she said. There was bribing. Aaron was over and under and over and out and in and out of the paddock several times.
He was.
Steph's holding a armload of bean plants.
Mm-hmm.
You have to we pulled some of the green beans,
and the cows at that point would not take any food from us, not even hay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bribe her. I'm dragging the beans on the ground,
and she's following
trying to get her. And as soon as she sees the open gate, she's like, "No,
I don't want to go in there.
I don't want to go there." And then we're still trying to keep Rosie inside and not let her out of the thing. Oh, it was a time. But we survived.
They did.
And it was okay.
And no one,
and we got our cattle badges or whatever.
Yep.
I don't know.
Now, mind you, about a month later, no, it was about
Not
a week
even,
later.
About a week later.
A week later, I come home from work.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I go over to check on the cows. Rosie had found a hole in the fence.
The same hole, even though we thought we plugged the hole. Aaron and I did try to fix the fence. We clearly did not do a good job.
I thought we went with it. But anyway, Rosie is about quarter of a mile away. If you look at it bird's eye view, there's a barn, a very, very long downhill slope.
Mm-hmm. She's down by the pond.
And there's a farm pond at the end. As I pulled up to the barn, I'm like, I only see one cow. And I look down at the farm pond, I'm like, oh, that's a cow. And she's headed toward my sister's house off a major road, major east-west road between Augusta, Maine and Rockland, Maine.
55, 60 all the time.
So I went in. At that point, we had them kind of bucket trained to come to a blue bucket that had the cattle cookies in it, which we'll explain later.
Kind of how I got Willow in there too, with the beans. Double.
So I put some in there, rattled the bucket, and hollered to her. It got her attention, and she started coming. So she's coming. I kept calling her. She kept coming up. I got her up at least away from the road to the barn. Okay, everybody is safe. Cows safe. Public is safe. All right.
No cows in the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I've just got to get the cow back in. I'm here by myself. Now,
in the meantime,
I've texted Steph at work.
At work, not answering because I'm at work. But sister-in-law Bonnie from across the road.
Yep.
She's like, something's going on. I'm going to go see what's happening.
Now, Bonnie is from the South, Alabama. Has never had
also not a cow person
at all. She likes cows. She likes animals. Right? Loves animals. Loves animals. Has never had any farm experience or whatever.
So she's me and Aaron, basically.
She comes over, and I see her, and I just Bonnie, and I'm working Rosie. I've got the gate open. I've got Willow. At this point, we had another gate. I've got Willow secured. So
she's in the paddock.
All I've got to do is get what she can't get out. I've just got to get Rosie into one particular gate. I look at, but Rosie is headed towards our backfield, which is about 15 acres.
Expansive. But Bonnie is wearing a pink hat
that Rosie is staring at,
and Rosie is like, "What's that?"
So
I was still at work.
I had Bonnie cut way out around. get ahead of her. I could work that, distracted her enough for me to get around the other side. And a long story short,
Hmm.
managed to work her back into the gate by myself. And Bonnie didn't think
Hmm.
she did a thing. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Hmm.
Because she was headed in where she was headed. And this one is the obstinate one because she has the
Angus.
Angus. I just have pictures of what happened years ago when other cows would get out with the Angus herd for my uncles would get out. So this the little bit of Highland in her, which is a food drive, worked. That's been the two major experiences we've had with the cattle since we've had it. We had Willow came up lame in the middle of winter. That's another.
Mm.
We'll do a segment on that. I worked through that, and without the help of a vet, just some common knowledge, asking some farmer cattle friends what we did. We'll go through all of that. What we wanted to do with this is that we've seen in the last couple of years, especially since COVID and a lot of the homesteading and turning things back to local, people trying to start farms and do things and they want to get into animals. What we've seen, I mean, a lot of times they'll start right out with like goats. I can tell you right now, I have no experience with goats, zero experience with goats. If you ever want to know anything about goats, or sheep, um, I can give you some really good people in
Right.
the town of Washington
Hawthorne and Thistle
ho-
Homestead.
that would know way, way more about goats.
Mm. Or Light Hill Farm.
Well, yep,
They have goats and sheep.
yeah. We're cattle people. We can. So what we wanted to do, but we see a lot more people trying. We've seen online and people asking, and we've got a lot of questions. And it happened even during Maple weekend. People asking about the cows.
Mm.
Even though we only have two, we do plan on expanding. That'll be a later episode. I heard a little bit with some future plans, but we wanted to kind of give you okay, that was a brief. What we're doing tonight was our brief history of how we got to where we are.
Right.
It's
We
been a
have two
year.
cows.
It's been a year. It's been a learning experience. I've
Mm.
relearned a lot of things and learned a lot of things
I've
last
learned
year.
all the things.
Steph has learned all, and I can tell you this: Steph has become. She is as good, if not better, than handling the hands-on things with cows. Are weird. They will
The
bond with.
cows do love me.
They do. They will pick up on certain things that I can do stuff with the cows. They like me. I can do things with them. Willow likes me more than Rosie does. Um, but there's just they're very intuitive animals, and you have to. It's a lot of and there's work with them. So we wanted to say we're not the end all.
No,
We are
we don't know
not.
everything.
We don't
That's
know
for sure.
everything. We are still relearning and learning, but we also wanted to explain to people that in our next episodes, this is going to be kind of a several part series of what you really have to think about if you want to get cattle and really do well with them. We're going to go over in parts of series of how to do that, what you need to think about, the commitment that you need to do, whether it's milking cattle or beef cattle. What breeds do you want to look at? What is your end goal with your cattle? What do you want, just the family milk cow, or do you want to develop a herd of your own for longevity? There's a lot of different things you need to think about. You need to think about infrastructure. We'll go over some costs. We're going to go in depth with this because talking about cows and cattle and raising cattle and the different breeds is something that I'm passionate about, and Steph has developed
A lot of research about.
a lot of research about. But she's also developed. Steph is an animal person anyway, but these
I
particular
mean,
two
who
animals,
doesn't love Highlands? They're so cute. They're so fluffy. even though they have the horns are fine. They can be a little harsh.
Intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. When you feed them, sometimes like Willow will throw her head around. She'll smack your arm. It hurts a lot.
I will tell you
But
that
we've not broken anything yet, so
no,
there's that.
you have to respect the fact. A friend of mine who has not been around cattle brought his family over, his wife and 2-year-old daughter, one day to look at the cattle. And we were at there, and he reached over, and we, at this point, the cows are very handy.
Yeah, you can pat them on the face. You
What
can grab a horn
what
of
you
Willow.
and that's what my friend noticed. He goes, when he reached over, his daughter's feeding the cattle through the fence,
Right?
which they'll do.
Because kids love cows, by the
They
way.
do that now. We've set up a feeding area for them. We've got them so they're handy. They'll come. They're much. It's we spent. This took a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. It probably took about 8 months.
Yeah.
For us to get the cows to come in and let us touch them, even.
Yep.
But also just to come to the bucket or to the hay, like at feeding time. But now we're at the point that if we are not there at a certain time, the cows moo at us
and let us know
to be like, where is the food?
But Matt said that what he reached over and he felt that horn, and he felt for the first time, because it was really the first time he said that he grabbed hold of
A
a
cow
full size
with horns.
with horns. He goes, "You're not moving that." I'm like, "Nope." You have to understand that these are over when they get to be 2 years old. You're talking at something that can weigh 1,000 pounds of muscle.
Mhm.
You have to develop a relationship with that animal, that you have to get it, that there's a respect between the two of you. You never turn, they're still an animal. They're domesticated, but they're still, you never turn your back on them.
It took me probably 6 months to go into the paddock
Alone.
and the fencing with the cows by myself, like
Yeah.
without a stick.
Yeah.
Like you can, if you hit a stick on the ground, they'll run away.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, I had a stick every time I went in there by myself, because Rosie was not kind to me. And when we first expanded the thing, followed me around and stomped her foot, and she was like, "I'm coming for you." And like I had to be behind Jeff at all times, or Rosie was like running for me. And that was not okay.
There was a challenge there. Cattle,
and it's fine now. We've made our peace.
And
it's fine now.
And that's what it takes. That you have to learn how to your dominance. It's I hate to say that word,
Right.
but that's
and I didn't have any because I didn't understand cows.
You have to have a confidence, and we'll go over a series of how to do this. At least from my opinion, from what I've learned from my entire family having cattle over the years, understanding of how to do this. We just
And
want,
it's all new to me. So,
and that's the
if
thing.
you have any questions,
And again,
let me know.
A lot of
I'll
this
do my best.
we want to encourage people. We don't want to scare people away, but we want to educate people in how to get to where you really enjoy having your cattle and what it takes, because we hate seeing animals not taken care of right.
Right.
And
Highlands, they have the horns, and that's scary for a lot of people.
And it's not for me.
In our like particular personalities of cows, Willow with her horns is actually less intimidating to me than Rosie and her Angus
and big head.
Yeah, Rosie definitely has challenged me, and Willow never has.
No. And at this point now, Willow is the ham. She wants her pictures taken.
She does.
She wants to come.
Very photogenic.
She wants to come, and she's very nosy.
Mhm.
She's very talkative.
And Rosie's kind of nosy too.
She's not the boss of the herd, but
No,
she is the
no.
one of the herd of two.
Right.
But
Rosie's definitely in charge of
right.
the herd of two.
And we just want to expand where we're at, and we might even shift how this is going to be a long series of podcasts about cows and the cattle here, and we'll intersperse some different ones, but we just want to let you know because we like cattle, and I know a lot of people are thinking about that. And we'll talk a lot about the Highland breed, but we'll talk a lot about the other breeds and that we're familiar with.
Right. And why we chose Highland cattle.
Yep. So you can expect to get more. These series will coming out quicker. Like I said,
or not.
They will.
Or not.
Even if Steph's not around, I'll do a series. How about that?
I don't know what you're doing on here.
I know. All right. So
we're going to wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up for tonight. And this is Jeff and Steph from Two Rock Ridge Farm. And we just want to say thank you for following us and hoping that everyone
out on the YouTube and the Instagram.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So basically,
you are supposed to do that.
Sorry, all you have to do is look up Two Rock Ridge Farm on Google. It'll come up to our Facebook page. It'll come up to our website.
And
you go to YouTube's. If you go to YouTube, you can look up Two Rock Ridge Farm, and you'll come up with a whole series of videos. A lot of them.
We try to post our podcasts on the YouTube also.
And also, what's the other one you're on? Insta.
TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Anna does a TikTok.
We are on TikTok. Anna does videos.
Rarely on TikTok, but that's what the young people are all about, the TikTok.
Right.
So.
But we are on YouTube. We have videos. We're on
Instagram if you just want to see pictures.
We're on all the social media, but just Two Rock Ridge Farm. That's all you got to look up on any of the social media, any of the social medias. So, again, thanks for joining us. It got a little bit longer than we wanted, but
it always does.
We're happy with cows.
We do love the cows. They're so cute. Maybe we'll do a picture.
We'll do a picture.
That'll make everybody happy.
All right, everyone, have a good night, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Anna at Two Rock Ridge Farm, and I want to thank you very much for listening to this episode of Two Rock Radio. For more content from us, follow all of our social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok. We also have a personal website, tworockridge.com, where you can keep up to date on what's happening here at the farm, upcoming projects, and more. Follow the link in the bio of this episode to locate us. Happy farming, everyone!